Right, joining me right now to run through all of the top stories is Philip Ingram. He's a former senior military intelligence officer. Good morning to you.
Good morning,
we've had you on the show so many times talking about Ukraine and many other military stories, but it was lovely to get you in to chat about, well, other things as well. Although, interestingly, this is the perfect day for you to be in, given that we are talking as a former, army officer, and someone who served in Northern Ireland, particularly,
exactly.
as well, to talk about what is going on with the government and their dealings with this pro-Palestinian march. We're told 1 million people might join this march. It's not been more than 100,000 most weeks so far, so I'm thinking that's probably pushing their luck. This march, we're told by the Met Police, is going to go ahead. We're told that after this, the Met Chief was basically pulled in to number 10 to meet Rishi Sunak for just about under an hour to talk about this. The Prime Minister has accepted, yes, the Met Police have operational independence. There isn't, according to Sir Mark Rowley, the Met Chief Commissioner, there isn't enough of a threat of serious disorder and violence for them to justify banning this march. But this march is not going to take place along Whitehall. It's not going to go by the Cenotaph. It's starting at 1 o'clock, 2 hours after the 11 a.m. 2 minutes silence that we mark every day, every year on this day, and that it shouldn't be a problem. And to a certain extent, banning the march, I think the argument from Sir Mark Rowley is, will actually create more problems and more likely an issue of disorder. Just first of all, do you think the march should go ahead where they are planning for it to go ahead, from Hyde Park down to the South Bank?
I think the potential for there to be trouble, given the fact that those that are coming in for the march and those that are coming in for the Armistice Day are going to be coming in through the same railway stations, the same tube stations, walking down the same streets. Trouble not as part of the formal march, but trouble in the side elements of it is very real. And therefore, this is something where Sir Mark Rowley is basing his decisions on intelligence. Yeah. Intelligence is not an exact science, and therefore he's sticking his neck in the line, I think, in doing this. I was hoping that the march organisers would have postponed it out of decorum.
That's the ideal situation, isn't it? You can have the right to protest, which was hard fought for by the people we are marking as fallen heroes on Armistice Day and in Remembrance Sunday commemorations on Sunday as well. But you don't always have to choose to exercise that right in everywhere, at every time, on every day.
Exactly. And whenever the organisers turned around and said, no, we're going ahead with it. And when you look at the substance of previous marches, if they were really marching for peace, all we hear is, anti-Israeli voices coming out, pro-Palestinian voices coming out, and the Palestinian people are suffering. There's no doubt about that, and we need to protest for that. But the people that are making them suffer most are Hamas. We're not hearing any anti-Hamas voices that are coming out as part of the march. It should be balanced.
People are sometimes carrying the Hamas flag, shouting Hamas slogans from the river to the sea. Palestinians will be free, i.e. the annihilation of the Israeli state. But this is the thing. On Monday, we had senior police officers warning they thought there would be a threat of there being some sort of disorder. And again, we're told the disorder will be veterans, football hooligans, far right, Tommy Robinson stirring things up now, people arriving. And they'll get the blame for, saying, well, they're going to behave provocatively. Well, you think, well, hold on a minute. These marches themselves are provocative. On Tuesday, we're told by the Met Chief, oh, there isn't enough of a threat. We've had the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary calling for this march to be off. The acceptance now that it will be off. However, the development overnight and this morning is this op-ed piece written by Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, in the Times.
Yes.
Now, she's accused the Met Police of playing favourites with protesters. She has said that the weekly pro-Palestinian protests were being used by Islamic extremists as an attempt to dominate the streets of London, basically saying these are intimidatory, and you referred to them as hate marches once again, a term that I don't think any of her cabinet colleagues have chosen to use. But she's saying that she described the weekly hate marches, she says, by pro-Palestinian protesters as comparing them to sectarian rallies held in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. She accused the police of employing a double standard, whereby they take a significantly softer approach towards left-wing groups like Black Lives Matter than right-wing protests such as anti-lockdown demos and football hooliganism, and basically saying, it's not good enough. Now, she's right. The police do police different protests differently. We saw in 2020, Black Lives Matter. I mean, they're on the knee, for goodness sake. Despicable, horrific scenes. And then anti-lockdown protests. I went on a couple of anti-lockdown protests. No violence whatsoever. There were some where people were... The video footage, they're walking through Hyde Park. They're doing exactly what they're being told to do, and they are being truncheoned down by the police. There's no doubt at all in my mind the police pick and choose how they police protests. Just Stop Oil, how they've been policed until the public outcry. When she goes as far, the Suella Braverman, and she does this all the time, she talks a lot of sense. She says what people are saying in the pub and in their own sitting rooms and in their own kitchens. And she says the stuff that we all know to be true if you're watching and paying attention. And then she throws the little hand grenade in at the end and she undermines everything by making this comparison with the sectarian marches in Northern Ireland. Now, you are Irish yourself. You served in Northern Ireland in the British military. What did you make of those comments?
I'm going to be polite to her and call them naive, but she's her own worst enemy. You know, in that you're 100% right. A lot of what she's saying makes infinite sense and ties in with recommendations that have come out in previous examinations of different marches and things. Yeah. But to throw these verbal hand grenades in, knowing full well that they're going to be politicised by the opposition, and they're good sound bites, so the press is going to jump on them as well and go, hey, look, this is fantastic. She undermines her whole arguments. And therefore she's ignoring or making people miss the real substance of what's in there. And that's why I don't think our political colleagues are
very happy about it. Well,
very happy about it.
Conversation is a lot of political journalists trying to find out from Number 10, was this op-ed approved by Number 10? Now, I was a political editor for many years. If a senior cabinet minister writes an article for a major national newspaper on one of the biggest political issues of the day,
it's approved. It's
approved. It goes through Number 10. So did Number 10 approve it? Was it changed afterwards? Do they approve it and then say, oh, you know, nothing to do with us, Gov? And here's the thing. A lot of people are saying she's doing this not just to stir things up. She's doing this for her own self-aggrandisement. This is about a future leadership bid, possibly even an attempt to get herself sacked right now, to distance herself from what many regard as a failing government.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, and there's a worse bit in there, because of the strength of the language that she's using and because of the way it's been played out in the public domain, it's polarising people. And that polarisation has got a greater potential of stirring up unrest on the day, because it's taking the likes of Tommy Robinson from EDL calling on you know, his football supporters to come in and you know, to try and protect you know, the areas from.
Well, the thing is, okay, the police are supposed to be doing that. People don't trust the police to do that. I've got, you know, I hold no candle for the extremists in the EDL or for Tommy Robinson at all. But what is fascinating is they will be criticised. Anything they do will be rightly criticised, and yet these marches by the pro-Palestinians, and again, we've discussed it solidly, you know, for a few weeks now. You know, there'll be people on these marches who are genuinely caring about innocent men, women, and children who are suffering because of this conflict, and they want those people to be safe. And they want that policy, people to speak out for those people. Absolutely fine, completely concur. And then people are saying, you know, they feel strongly about the Palestinians as a long-term historical issue about getting their own state and not being stuck in Gaza. Yeah, absolutely understand that as well. But then there are people who are the useful idiots who are spouting Hamas slogans. And then there are also, and Suella Braverman says, some of these marches, hate marches, they are extremist. The organisers, some of the organisers, I mean, are very left-wing extremists and very, very sort of anti-Zionist, I would say, brackets, anti-Jewish. I don't think those things are the same, but I think actually a lot of these people do hold anti-Semitic views. And then there are people who have blatant, open links with Hamas, which is, I know the BBC keep forgetting this, but they are a terrorist organisation.
And the trouble is, the organisers want a peaceful protest, and that's what they're organising. I think they genuinely do, but the trouble is there's so many other little splinter groups that are part of that. They are seeing this as a perfect opportunity to jump on the bandwagon and carry out problems. The organisers can't police it themselves, so they're relying on the Metropolitan Police and the British Transport Police, and the police haven't always got it right. And we mix bits and pieces up about people's right to protest in bits and pieces. And you know, I go back to HM Inspector of Constabulary's review of protests, a guy called Matt Marr in 2021, looking at the Black Lives Matter protests and everything else. He turned around and emphasised that protests are important of our vibrant and tolerant society. Under human rights law, we all have the right to gather and express our views, but these rights are not absolute rights. And he then goes on to say, having reviewed the evidence of what went on in those marches, our conclusion is that police do not strike the right balance on every occasion. The balance may tip too readily in favour of the protesters. And as often the case, the police do not accurately assess the level of disruption that's going to be caused or likely to be caused by the protests. You know, I think Mark Rowley's been very carefully said if the intelligence changes, he will look at banning it. I think with all the polarisation that's going on, that intelligence may change very quickly.
Yeah, there may well be that. But again, when we talk about the likelihood of a disorder, okay, so maybe there's not disorder, but there are also tens and tens and tens of thousands of Jewish people in this country who, and particularly in the capital city of London, who are too scared to go into the West End because of these rallies. They are scared of going into their own city because they fear being attacked for looking Jewish. That is unacceptable.
Yeah. And it's not just that. As a veteran, I would feel uncomfortable going through crowds with my medals on, my beret on, going down to... I would feel uncomfortable doing that.
That's saying something. Whereas actually, people should be turning around to you and shaking your hand and saying thank you for your service.
Because we are remembering people who have fought for peace.
Talk us through your tie.
This tie is a British Legion tie, and it is commemorating Armistice Day, and it's got the symbol that we see everywhere of the First World War soldier with his head bowed and his rifle. And I wear that.
It's very moving. The image is so moving.
I wear that, and lots of little soldiers there. And of course, the poppy represents everyone who's sacrificed their life for people to have the right to protest and all the rest of it. And this is where if the people who have the right to protest don't show some decorum for those that have fought for that right and given their lives for that right, then you have to question their motives.